All right, and we're back at the Freedom M School. And today I've asked Toby to talk about the north position. And as we promised, we're going to get into the positions on the field of play in the game of life.
This is all about the game of life, folks, right? The game of life, the thing that we're all always trying to do is to be seen as valuable to whoever it is that, is important to us so that we will have a surplus, right? Whether it's love or employment or revenue or paycheck, whatever it is that we're all seeking at any given time, that's what our focus is on. Because this lizard brain, which we're going to be talking about here for each of these positions, tells us that if that tribe doesn't value me, I'm going to die because they're going to kick me out and the saber-toothed tiger is going to eat me.
Right.
Okay? And so it doesn't matter how safe of a place you are, how many millions of miles you are from an actual, animal predator or whatever else, your lizard brain doesn't know any different.
And that's literally why we call it biology.
Right. You've seen people go biological, and if you're honest, you've gone biological. You've snapped at someone that you love or even someone that you didn't love, and I'm going to show you why that happens and start to give us all some insights about how we can gain greater emotional self-possession, right?
Self-awareness.
Self-awareness.
Yes.
And how we can help other people do the same thing. Now, there's a few things that we have to understand about this. I'm going to repeat this probably at every position.
Well, this is part of the rules.
It is part of the rules.
Part of the
I guess
rules.
it is, yes.
Yeah, it really is.
First off, this is not about personality. Personality is a whole other different field of play that I'm not even going to get involved in, other than to say that it's very complicated. There's a gazillion opinions and models that have to do with it. This is biologically implanted in us. We cannot change it.
Again, why we call it biology.
Yes. Yeah.
Can't say that enough.
Yeah. Okay. Sometimes in some of those assessments that you may have taken somewhere along the line at work or online or something like that, they tell you some things about yourself, and then we can kind of laugh with each other like, oh yeah, you really are like that, and so am I, or whatever else.
Yeah.
You're going to see some things like that in this assessment as well, but here's the difference. The biological position that you have, that I have, that Shelley has, it's not an excuse for us to act like the worst aspects of our biology.
Oh, please listen to this because I tried it.
It's a responsibility. It's our job.
It is our job.
Right? It's our job to give it to others, and we're going to show you exactly how to do that. All right, next thing I want you to know. Do not fret. Every position is equally valuable. You must have 100, all of these positions in order to truly prosper at higher and higher levels.
Even though yours is the most important.
No.
Just kidding. I'm totally kidding.
It's all about timing. It's all about timing, right? In football, what's more important, offense or defense? Right? Depends. Right. Who's got the ball?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it depends on who you're talking to at any given time.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. As you go through this, I want to caution you, and this comes from hard-earned experience, please don't tell people what you think they are, all right? Rather, invite them to come see this and train with you to figure it out for themselves.
Well, and this is so important because you want them to discover this. You want them to see themselves for who they really are. And if you try to tell them, they're not going to get that opportunity, and it's not going to be something that they discover.
Right.
They're self-awareness. For
sure. Sometimes people get it like right away. They see. I've shown this to someone on a cocktail napkin, and in 2 seconds they're like, "Oh, I got those!" Boom, and they knew who they were.
Or vice versa. You might observe somebody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Some people. In fact, I know a couple people that are a part of our school right now. They still haven't figured out who they are, and the reason is, and I'm just going to be flat out honest, if you're struggling with this, they're trying to avoid, their lizard brain's trying to avoid being accountable. And it's, I empathize, but none of us has an excuse. No. They know the truth. I've seen them look at the truth and then avert their eyes and try to pretend they didn't see it. But I saw them see it.
It's like trying to play middle blocker when you're really the setter.
Something like that.
You're just trying to avoid it. I'm sorry, I always talk volleyball.
Yeah, but it's So which leads me to one of the other points here. We can't play a position that we're not.
Yes.
You can't. And that's why it's so vital that you just accept who you are. All 4 positions are absolutely essential. One is not better than the other. It's only about timing. And there are incredible people in life today and throughout history who have shared your position and kicked butt.
Please say that again, because it's so important.
Our history books are full of incredible contributors in all 4 positions.
The part where you can't play someone else's position.
Yeah, you can't. You cannot. There's a metaphor I like to use here. Okay. All right, so here's an example. Shelley was an outstanding volleyball player in high school and college. In high school, she was a big fish in a small pond. She was one of the tallest members of the team. She could basically play any of the positions.
Yeah.
When you got to college, you were a smaller fish in a much bigger pond.
I was way down.
And there were some women on your team that were over 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
And so now it was impossible for their team to succeed at the high level of competition that they were at by putting someone who was 5'9" in a position that they should have. The competitors are going to have people that are 6'2", 6'4".
Right.
Not going to work. All right. So if you're in the minor leagues of whatever you're doing and you can kind of coordinate things for yourself. But where we get stuck is when we don't realize that, the higher and higher level the competition and the stakes go, the more and more important this kind of coordination of teamwork is.
Right.
I mean, we'll talk more about this. If you're still trying to figure out what position you are, my advice is this. Try to eliminate 2 positions. So if you've read through those descriptions, and you need to have, so if you haven't, hit pause, go back and read the guide.
And read them all. Even if you think you know on the first or second one.
Yes.
Read all of them.
And just because we've done this a million times, you're going to see things that you could do in all 4.
Yes.
And there's going to be 2 in particular, typically, if you don't see yours right out of the gate, that you're like, well, I can be kind of both of this, which leads me to one of our most common questions. Can I be 2? Can I be a combination of the 2? No and no.
No.
When we get backed into a corner, our actual biological reaction does come out.
It does.
We can all learn to, obviously modulate ourselves, or you wouldn't be here, I doubt, because you would be struggling with life so much that this would be the least of your worries.
That's true.
Right? Yeah. But when push comes to shove, people go to their biological reaction. Until you get really awesome at this, and like you start to become a black belt, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll be looking at people like, wow, how do they do that?
Tell them the difference between what you actually do and what you say or think you want to do, or you somehow in your head you've misconstrued what you actually do.
Well, so that kind of gets into keeping an open mind about this and being coachable and watching out for our egos, okay?
Yes.
Some of us, we all struggle with being wrong at some level, but some of us struggle with it more than others. And all progress begins by telling the truth. And if you can't get to that spot, it just means it's going to slow down your advancement.
Right.
Because the breakthroughs that any of us wants to have in a relationship, in our career, or whatever you come from these greater and greater amounts of clarity about ourselves.
Exactly.
This is how players go from good to great to awesome to legendary, is they start to see finer and finer distinctions, and they gain mastery over them.
Exactly.
Right? You watch the Olympics and you watch a swimming competition. They're competing at the 1/100th of a second level. What they're having to pay attention to at their level is completely different than what it might look like in junior minnow swimming and high school and so forth.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Just completely. And this is no different than any other sport, or other activity. And I would maintain that regardless of what industry you're in, whatever your profession is, this is the game changer.
It is.
The highest performers in whatever you're spending your time with have accidentally or on purpose, probably accidentally on purpose, gained a higher level of awareness about how they operate and how to insert themselves into the game and when to keep themselves out of it and just play better.
This is the key
to
self-awareness.
All right, so here's my favorite part about all this. And this is true in sports. The greatest performance is easier. Where you're working too hard. Yeah. I'm going to show you how to do less.
Yeah.
Okay? Throughout this whole process.
Yeah.
But you can't know what to stop doing and what to do more of until you absolutely know your position.
Well, if you've done anything to a point where you master it, you realize that the less effort you put into it, the least amount of action, the more you get out of it.
Yeah, well,
it becomes like
when you just grip too tight and you effort too much, I mean, you can't flow, you can't move, you're slower. And it's not just a physical thing, it happens, mentally. If you're in a difficult conversation, you're on a high stakes negotiation, you're in public speaking, you're having to have a conversation with someone that's really in rough shape,
your
right?
Spouse.
Exactly, maybe you're in rough shape. The more you're, the worse it's gonna go.
Right.
When we're
being patient.
Being patient. So yes,
patient.
Absolutely. All right. If you have any questions, please email us at hunter@tnad.us. It's on the guide, hunter@tnad.us. We would love to help you and answer those questions. This is a process. Shelly and I have been doing this for a lot of years now, and there isn't a part of a day, let alone a whole day, that goes by where we're not referring to someone by one of these four positions as a form of like air traffic controller talk,
totally.
Turn left on a heading of 090. I mean, this is, whenever you get to a higher level of any activity, you start to have professional talk.
Right.
This speeds up. When Shelly says, we're going to be meeting this person and this is this and they're whatever, I instantly am better prepared for that just by knowing one of these four words. And so,
seriously.
Right, so practice makes perfect. Okay, so let's turn to this guide here where it says survival concern. So we'll go to the north section and it says survival concern. My lizard brain tells me that I will die if. Okay, I told you there are four versions of this survival conversation. We're all seeking to be seen as valuable to the tribe, whoever that is in our brains. And there's four subsets of this. For some of us, the conversation the lizard is saying is, if others know that I don't know, I will die.
Yeah.
Therefore, I must appear to be certain.
Right.
Okay? So north is all about certainty. Okay?
I know.
Yes.
Often hear them say that.
I know.
I know.
I must know. You must know that I know. And I told the story about Thomas Jefferson, who was a North, who had to give certainty about the need for America to fund the Lewis and Clark expedition and why his vision, what the benefit was for the United States. And he had to risk his own identity, right?
Right.
To make that claim. So, you probably just heard that there's this conflict. On the one hand, our brain wants to be seen as valuable to the tribe. But in order to make our contribution, we have to risk our identity for the sake of the tribe. That's the definition of contribution.
Right.
As a parent, if you're a parent, you know this. You regularly put your needs and desires below your children. At least I hope you do. Not always, but it's part of the deal.
Sure.
It's part of the deal, right? They can't go grocery shopping on their own. They need to be driven somewhere if they're younger kids or in other dynamics, right? So this is how you build your identity. When you're a person that lifts the identity of other people, you win. The more you do that, the more identity you get. The more identity you get, the more options you get. Options means surplus. Surplus equals survival.
One little interjection here. This is literally the tip of the iceberg as to the whole big picture of this.
Yes.
So please don't take this and run with it, because there's so much you need to understand. It'd be like going into a karate class and you're done at the first lesson. You're like, I know karate.
And then walk into a dark alley in a bad section of town at 2 a.m.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's literally like that. So I just had to say that.
Yeah. All right. So we go to the next section. So what you're going to see, it's titled anxiety. Okay. Now, we all have had experiences where we felt anxious. And we've all had experiences, I hope, where we feel, more calm and secure. Hopefully very calm and secure. Confident, right?
Yeah.
Now, what you're going to see with all the positions is this yin-yang, right?
Yes.
Anxious, I behave one way. Calm and collected, I contribute the other way. It's about give versus get.
Yeah.
It's about like an angel and a devil on each
Pretty
shoulder,
much,
right?
Yeah. There's a reason for that.
The devil is like, the hell with them, get what you want. And the angel's like, no, you give first and then it comes back. And this is a fact. I watch this dynamic happen all the time, or not happen when people try to violate it, okay?
Exactly.
One of the things that a North will do, this is kind of their go-to thing, is their survival strategy and under anxiety is to dictate. Do it because I said so.
Yell, scream.
Doesn't necessarily have to be yelling and screaming.
No.
That could be more of a personality factor.
Yes, true.
But
they will tell you with certainty that this is going to happen.
Yes. Dictate. You do it my way or the highway, okay?
Yeah.
Now,
That's a good one, yeah.
we're right out of the gates here with the first thing, and some of you might be thinking, well, I'm not a North, but I think, I could do that sometimes. Yes, as a parent, you've had to dictate. You can dictate, but trust me, at the higher levels of this game, if you're not a North and you're standing next to a North and what's needed on the field of play is certainty, a dictation, they're gonna beat you every time. And the same thing is like with sports when you get up to higher levels.
And it's an energetic thing.
It's absolutely.
Which is why it's biological.
I'll spoiler alert, I am not a North, but I know one. And, I can speak with certainty, but I promise you, I can't pull off certainty like a true North. There's just something energetic about it, okay?
Yeah. And we're one of the rare couples that is both on offense,
Extremely
North
rare. I said in an earlier episode that almost always couples are on opposite sides. I've seen this kind of weirdness extremely rarely.
Yeah.
Okay. Management style, the next one. You can see that it says control. Norths tend to, they want control. They want certainty, right? So they can get into micromanagement, can be a tendency for them.
Right.
Okay?
Well, they want to run the show and they want it to be their way.
Yeah, well, because everyone else is stupid. Shelly and I have a lot of fun with this. We want you to have fun with it too.
Somebody has to save Christmas.
Somebody has to save Christmas, yes. All right, management strategy under stress. Norths will try to manipulate the situation. They, in their mind, if you think of like a playing cards analogy, a poker analogy, they try to get 5 aces before they bet. Yeah. They try to coordinate things, arrange things so that no matter what way the coin flips, they win.
Yeah, and for the Angel North, that can be very good if it's in contribution. For the Devil North, not so much.
No. And this can also lead to procrastination for the North because guess what? Not always easy to get 5 aces. In fact, in reality, you can never get 5 aces.
Right. Well,
but,
that would be perfect.
Yeah, exactly. They would rather be right. Okay?
Oh, man.
We say this, a North, when they're, in their bad zone, they would rather be right than have something work.
Yes.
Okay?
I know someone so close to me that does this, literally he just can't even see past that I've got to be right.
Yeah.
Like, would rather go down on the ship.
So this is a real thing. Now, this is all a spectrum, and I am talking about, I guess, the negative side, and we're going to do this for all the positions, because let's face it, this is what we notice the most. We need to get a grip on this so that we can show how to contribute it. But we all have to deal with these other positions, and there's a certain dynamic that it happens over and over again. Breakdown judgment, I already said it. North would probably say something like, they're just stupid.
That's stupid.
They're stupid. Yep, yeah, that's stupid, right?
With such
I just watched a Periscope with a North this morning, and she said, I can't imagine how low their IQ must be. That's just stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was her comment.
Yeah.
Okay. Norths are famous for getting tons of ideas. I mean, idea a minute. You may think, if you're not a North, but you think you have ideas, you don't have ideas like a North does.
No,
trust me.
It's a problem.
It can be a real problem because it can keep them from staying focused.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And they can confuse having ideas with accomplishment, because in that North brain, what can happen is like, hey, I got the idea, the rest is details.
Right.
Right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And that's just not the case. Anyone who's ever started a business or taken on a big project, the idea is like, it's a step. It's like, okay, let's do this, but there's a lot of details that have to happen to bring that whole thing around.
Which is why we call it a game, which is why there's positions, and you cannot play a game by yourself.
Not well.
Well, you can play couple, maybe solitaire.
Well, yeah, but again, this is a really important thing about our careers. There's a myth that we like to say that he or she is a self-made man or woman. There's no such thing.
No.
And the higher level you see of someone succeeding, I guarantee you, they have found a way to get a team around them. They may not be that liked. They may not appear to be that liked, but trust me, they've figured out how to make it work.
Yeah, and you'll see TV shows that are the most popular. They've got all four positions, and they've got it dialed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things that we'll do as exercises, if you follow along, we put them in the 6-point field guide now and again, is when you watch a movie or read a book, but movies, let's just talk about, or TV shows, you can see a part of when they work or not work is if they've designed a character that's consistent with these positions. There is some primal part of us that recognizes this. It's really fascinating.
It is, which is why it's biological. Have I said that enough?
Exactly. So literally, if we watch a TV show or a movie, our girls are, that's a north, that's a west, that's a south, that's an east.
Yeah.
Oh,
I can't
pulling
wait
it
to
apart.
go one of our favorite shows because it's funny.
Okay. Let's go to contribution, right? So we've talked about the dark cloud. Let's talk a little bit about how are Norths great? Well, it's that whole, it's the whole double, it's the whole double edges of the sword, right?
It is.
No one gives certainty like a North. If a North tells you you can do it, it makes you feel like $1 million. You believe, Norths can make people believe they can do things that they didn't think they could do.
Yeah.
Better than the other three positions. Other three positions can be supportive, we can be cheerleaders, but when a North gets behind you and they believe in you, I hope you have that experience someday. It's incredible. I'll never forget.
Oh my gosh, Tom Bilyeu, is it?
Yep.
He does this, and literally the guests walk in, they're like, wow, I like myself better.
Oh, because of his introductions.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
That's, that reminds me of, one of our North friends that I coached for a long time.
Yes.
A frequent contributor on Fox News. And he invited me to be the speaker at one of his groups or something. And he gave an introduction that I'm like, I just want to stay with you all the time. I've never felt, I was like, right? So Norths, you have a superpower, okay? All four positions do.
Yes.
And North, your superpower is giving certainty.
It really is.
It really is. And we think we have to do everything.
Yeah.
But when you watch the masters at anything, they make it look easy because they have figured out those key buttons and levers that they just know how to move, and they leave the rest alone. I mean, people can think that life is this just unbelievably complicated board of buttons and numbers and dials and levers.
Yeah.
And maybe it is, but they get divided into 4 categories, and when you know yours, you don't need to worry about the other 3.
Because literally we're flying blind.
Yeah.
Without this.
Taking that analogy. From leadership, they give direction, right? We're going this way.
Yep.
A famous, incredible example of this is Steve Jobs, when he took over Apple. If you've had a chance to read the biography of him, it's unbelievable to see how he stayed on point and kept the whole team on point. I mean, he was famously difficult. I mean, if someone screwed up,
famously controlled.
Oh, famously, people would just be brought to tears with his critique, and a lot of people speak ill of him, but not the people that were on his team and went through it. I mean, he regularly, reality distortion filter, I think is what he called it.
Yeah,
is what they called it
reality distortion
about him.
Yeah.
Is that he could distort what was possible. He said, "We're going to go do this," and his team is like, "That's impossible. It's never been done." He said,
without evidence.
Yes.
Yes.
Norths will declare
without
something
evidence.
that's never been done or that they don't have evidence for. And it could be something very, very minor, and it could be something gigantic like the smartphone.
Right.
And man, I mean, people regularly said he made us feel like we could do anything. And guess what? They did. They pulled off deliveries and designs that at the beginning of the project, when he declared it, just seemed like impossible. Talk about mission impossible.
You talk about vision.
Unbelievable vision.
Yeah, just wow.
And North's contribution is to bring back the team to their core intention with certainty. This is what we are about. Do not deviate.
Right.
But Norths can get a lot of ideas, so
when you say that, you're saying like this, it happens again, as always, in this clockwork.
Right. I mean, you may declare we're going to make an iPhone and have the meeting and say, okay, mic drop, I'm out. No. I mean, we're going to have to keep coming around and bring it back, bring it back, bring it back. When Steve Jobs took over Apple, they had gotten divisions for everything. They were all over the place. And he made a 2x2 matrix, and he said, if it doesn't fit in one of these 4 boxes, we cut it. And they did.
4 boxes, imagine that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Now, we've given you a little flavor of North. Probably some of you are grinning or giggling about some Norths You're like, oh, yeah, I think I know who this is.
Yeah.
As we try to assess the biology of other people, we have a pile of maps. Now, you'll notice that in every one of these things we've looked at, there's four words. You could draw these for North, say, for instance, we were just at certainty, freedom, stability, security, okay, for the contribution. Leadership was direct, facilitate, replicate, and evaluate.
Which is why I've said, and I'll say it again, this is the tip of the iceberg. There's
Right.
so much.
But you can be looking at these paragraphs of words that you have there as a description for all the 4 positions, and you may be thinking, boy, this seems like a difficult way to assess people. I would agree. The way I do it is I divide it into offense and defense, and these 2 hemispheres, and I just do process of elimination, unless I can tell right away.
Yeah.
And some people are super obvious. So one of the clues that helps to identify positions is what I call like these energetic clues. And so this first one you can see here, it says assess versus project. North has a tendency to be, I'm going to cross my arms here, and have more of I have certainty about myself. The real question is, are you competent? I'm assessing you.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Now,
Do you cut
a North can be like a dock on a still water. He looks calm on top, and his feet could be going like this underneath. The wheels and the feet of a North might be going 1,000,000 miles an hour. They probably are. But they have a diabolical ability to appear calm on the surface.
Oh, my best example of this right now is Jordan Peterson.
Yes.
I just saw an interview he had with Steven Crowder, and he's
Right.
like, I may look like I'm that duck,
Yep.
but underneath I was scared
Yes.
to the
Yeah.
to death.
Yeah. And that's okay.
Love that guy.
We're all human,
Yeah.
right? But that's kind of how North does, and North can make some of the other positions feel a bit like, they feel that it's, and it's got degrees of strength here depending on the person you're with.
When I run into another North, I feel it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Two Norths. Have you ever taken two magnets to the wrong ends and they just won't come together?
Yeah.
That's two Norths. There's almost like there can't be two.
Well, if you have a North child, which we do.
Yes. And you have a North parent.
Right.
As you likely will.
This is priceless to know, because you can have right fights with a North all day long and no one will give up.
No. And we've seen moms and or dads with their children have really, really difficult times because they don't understand that this is what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay. The second thing, thought versus action. North is gonna default to thought.
Oh yeah, we gotta go think about it.
Yeah.
Because I gotta be right.
If I hit Shelly with a question, or sometimes I'll even just like do like I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah.
She'll kind of look at me. She has to stop.
Is that a trick question?
Is that a trick question?
Because
Right.
I have to know.
Right. And because North is really concerned. Remember, their lizard brain is saying, if anyone figures out I don't know, I'll die. So if someone hits me with a surprise and I don't quite know how to process it in that nanosecond, I have to go into lockdown and try to think it out.
Yeah.
And that's what I observe North does. Does that feel right?
Yes, and often a North will just come up with an answer that seems right to them. They'll just throw something out.
Yeah. Speaks from. So you can see the words here. You should. Again, North, they're directors. They're dictators. They're about certainty. And so they'll say to you, you should.
You should go try that.
You should
go try
you
that
should do
restaurant.
this. You should go do that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
You should.
As I mentioned, the focus, it's more other focused from this, North's on the one hand, you might say they can seem sort of self-centered or narcissistic. The fact is all four positions can do that.
Oh, yeah.
But the way North does it might fit more of the stereotypical definition of that. But they're focused on you again with that assessment.
Right.
Accused of declarations without evidence. So when a North says, we're going to send a man to the moon and bring him back in this decade, as JFK did, do you think everyone said, oh, yeah, that makes sense?
Yeah, or Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, or we're going to go to, yeah.
Like, really?
Right. So they get, you don't know that. We've never done that. We've already proven that we can't make rocket fuel that can do this and can do that. And
I just saw on the news the other day someone was accused of, she just made it up, like, without any evidence.
Yeah.
Like, that's because they're North.
Yeah. And, you've heard us say I hope, in some of our other conversations that we're at the end of a cycle, this last American dream. And when you're at the end of the cycle, it's when it's time to go start declaring the next thing. And by definition, the next thing isn't proven. It's not history, it's future.
Right.
And this is really uncomfortable because we've been so used to what happened over here, and we have all of this, I guess, sort of stability and security and this memory of that's what works. We're talking about, what is the role of college these days? How, what is the future of jobs? These are big things that we're wrestling with right now, and it's clear that they're struggling in ways that they didn't used to struggle.
Right.
And you're going to see more and more North declaration. It's just going to be how our tribe will get out of it. And, if you want to think about this from sort of a political, historical standpoint, we either end up with a benevolent, magnanimous North type leader that says, like a Lincoln or somebody that just is bulletproof to the criticism and everything else they're going through.
Can you think of somebody like
Yeah, it's hard. Believe me. we are going to be greater than you can imagine. Believe me.
Believe me.
Yes.
And I do.
Or we could end up with an absolute scary tyrant. Yeah. And so you've seen this in work. You've seen this with kids in the playground, couples. This is what the game we're all in.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So we've gone through all of these. As Shell says, tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of pieces to this. I know we're throwing a lot at you. I hope that you're getting something from this, that you're starting to have your eyes open to something that's been going on since you were born. The kids you knew at school, your siblings, your parents, your cousins, your uncles, your boss, your neighbors. They're all one of these 4 positions, and you're going to start to see that those breakdowns that you either have laughed or cried or done both about are going to become so predictable. I know that for me, one of my first reactions to this was some relief.
Oh,
because,
yeah.
Everyone has some family dynamics that, there's a reason.
Well, I think the biggest one is couples, relationships, marriages.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Because that's the biggest choice besides your family.
Yeah.
Once you're older and you're choosing a mate.
Yep.
This is priceless.
Yeah.
And I mean priceless.
Once I know the positions of a couple, I can tell them what their fight is.
Yeah, and they're like, how'd you know that?
Because there's only 4.
There's only 4 people in the world.
Yeah, there is, pretty much. And we all like to think we're so unique, and we are in important ways. But I'm telling you, if you embrace this, don't resist it, and get into it, it will set you free.
And be patient.
Yes.
Which is why we call it the Freedom Unschool. Because
Yes.
you are literally unschooling yourself so you can be free.
100%. 100%. Yeah. All right. Up next, East.